73, we're finding the domain, and this one has a restriction. This can't be 0. So we write that like this. We write that the domain is that t is not equal to 0. This can't be negative. So we write down that y minus 10 has to be bigger than 0. I guess it can be greater than or equal to 0. Then when we add 10 to both sides, we have y is greater than or equal to 10. And that's our domain. This one has 2 restrictions. X can't be 0, and x can't be negative 2. S cannot be 4, and s minus 1 has to be 0 or bigger. So s is greater than or equal to 1. This can't be 0 or negative. So x is not equal to 0, and then x is bigger than or equal to 0. So actually, if we put those together, this is our final answer. Since area is equal to s squared and perimeter is equal to 4s, we're going to solve this right one for s. This goes away. We have s is equal to p over 4. So let's replace that. And there's our answer. So volume is equal to length times width times height. Here, the height is going to be x, and the length and the width are equal to each other because it's a square, and they're both 24 minus 2x. So if I wanted to put this in as a formula, I could write it like this: x times 24 minus 2x times 24 minus 2x, which is a little bit tricky. Why don't we just plug in some actual numbers? For example, if it's 1, like for the first one in this table, that's really just going to be 1 times 22 times 22, because we can plug in 1 to this, or over to here in the picture. So I made a table in my calculator with this formula, and I see that this is 484, this is 800, this is 972, this is 1024, this is 980, and this is 864. So based on what we are seeing here, yes, it's a function. And this is actually, this is actually my function. And the domain is all real numbers. Nope, it's not, sorry. The domain is that x is going to be bigger than or equal to, or probably bigger than 0. I'm just looking at our shape, and we can't have a negative distance, and we can't have a height of 0, otherwise it's not a box, it's just flat. So x has to be bigger than 0. So to figure out number 93, we can plug in 30 here for x, and if we plug in 30, our answer is 6, which is going to go over the head of someone that is 5 feet. So the answer is yes. So for these 8 years, we're going to do a table like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, 6, 7, and 8. And all of these will get plugged into this top equation. And all of these will get plugged into this bottom equation. And I think it actually stops at 7, not at 8, but it's the same idea. So I could go into my calculator and type this one in as y1 and this one in as y2. And then if I look at the table, the results for here are 699, 709.6, 720.2, 730.8, 741.4. And I'm going to jump over to y2, which had the second equation here. This is 444.5. This is 460. This is 475. And those looked wrong, so I double checked and I had typed it in wrong. Sorry about that. One take, here we go. But this one was 744.5, 760, and 775.5. So this is some cost profit type stuff, and we're looking at the total cost equation first. Cost is equal to this much per X plus 98,000. Since we're selling it for this, that's our revenue. That's 17.98 plus 98,000. And then that brings us to our profit, where we take basically 17.98 minus 12.30. That's our slope. And then we still have, oh, I see here, the revenue is not the 98,000. So this is going to be minus 98,000. What is that number? So I could rewrite it like this, 5.68 minus 98,000. Do they want to know when you'll be profitable? Nope, they just want the function. So we're all done. Let's put an X here and call it a day. Why are the domains different? For F, this can't be negative, so X minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. G is not an even function, so we don't have to worry about that. The cube root can be negative. So for this G1, so domain for F is this. The domain for G is all real numbers, because it's okay if they're negative for cube root. Sales tax is a function of the selling price. So I guess you would take your price and you would multiply by 1.06. Yeah, I'd call that a function. We'll say yes. Your score is a function of the number of hours you study the night before the exam. I'd say probably not, but let's go through it. So you study for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours and you score, let's say, a 60 or a 70 or an 80%. There might be a pattern there, and will you ever study the same amount and get different scores? Since it says your score, I guess I would say yes, this is a function. But if you were taking more than one test and you ever ran into a situation where you studied for 2 and then you got a 70, and then you studied for 2 and then you got an 80, then it would be no. Yeah, the book says no. I agree with that.